All right, folks, comic book talk is here. Let's do it. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. This is going to be a fun, special one. I'm going to kind of like do a first part of a series I'm going to start now. The 30th anniversary of Knightfall, this seminal Batman event that took place in 1993. So today I want to give you sort of I'm not even going to call them the prelude issues. I want to kind of hit on the setup issues. So these are issues that you don't have to read, but I think if you do, number one, they're good on their own merit. Then two, it gives you a lot more backstory of things that happen in that event. So some of these things actually predate it quite a bit, and that's kind of where we're going to start first. But I hope you're enjoying the show and the content. If you are, make sure you're connected, like button, subscribe, and all that stuff so I can interact with you. That's what I enjoy the most. So, all right, with that said, let's go back to Legends of the Dark Knight number 16. This is part one. This is actually March of 1991. Denny O'Neil penned this story. This is the first part of the Venom story arc. So it's a 5-part series. I'll make this smaller for you, so hopefully it'll fit a little bit better. It's just so you can have an idea what we're talking about here. So Venom is a very important story for me because, number one, I read this in real time. I remember getting these off the shelf, reading them, and I think what struck me about first off, let's just take a pause on that art. Okay. Because wow, right? I mean, wow. Russell Braun's pencils, Trevor Von Eden did a lot of layouts, but just look at this detail real quick before we get into this. This is crazy, isn't it? Look at the guys. Look at this. So they have a little girl that's trapped and it's underground. She was kidnapped. They found her. They can't get her out. They don't know what to do. The water main's gonna burst. She's gonna drown. She's trapped in here. So this is how this is put together. But I just wanted you to see the detail. I want to compare and contrast that with other reviews I've done, talking about comics that are even more modern. But even the ones I talked about when I was talking about the Captain Marvel issues of 2012, 2013, like this is 1991. They wonder why we're not happy fans. This was 91. So with that said. Little girl's trapped. Batman's racing to the scene. He's going underwater to get her. He's there. He's throwing rocks. He's doing the best he can. And he moves this big rock, right? He's going to save her. And then at the last second, what happens is he can't save her. Her name is Sissy. So this sends Batman basically spiraling into the realm of failure. Okay? And he goes and visits the dad, and the dad turns out to be a scientist, and the scientist is working on this special sort of performance-enhancing drug, and there's experimentation going on, that kind of thing. So Batman, and it's kind of like this is the first issue. This is all like a lot of setup here with these drugs. Batman doesn't want any part of any of this, right? So he's working on different things. He's motivated by Sissy. This you can see the flashback here to Sissy's face. And then but he ends up going backwards to this step right here, where he's like, I must lift this amount of weight. And I think there's a reference to like 600 pounds. So imagine Batman, what he would look like to lift this 600 pounds. And he's not strong. How do I get stronger, right? He actually injures himself. So what happens is here you see his deltoid pops. So the Venom story sort of transpires over the course of 5 issues. And you can see just, how crazy this is going to get, right? Because what he does is he ends up taking these pills. He ends up getting super, super strong, really, really fast. And you can see quickly here with Alfred, they end up at odds with each other immediately, to the point where Alfred actually resigns and walks away, like you're on your own. But what Bruce Batman does not realize is that the medication, these pills that he's giving him, is like roid rage. Like it's total mental illness and addiction, highly addictive. Obviously, this is a nice social commentary on steroid use and drug use and those kinds of things. But more importantly, I want you to understand this concept of what Batman what Batman goes through. So he goes on this journey, and that's what transpires over the next few issues before he realizes and falls into like deep, deep despair. And he realizes that he's addicted. He realized the fallacy of his mistake, and he actually has Alfred lock him in the Batcave for 30 days. And there's this incredible, I don't want to spoil all these intricacies, there's this incredible sequence where Alfred's checking on him, and he hears him in the background on this intercom system and things like that before he emerges, this disheveled and beaten down man. And you see the pills a bit dropping to the floor, quite metaphorically, right? And then the other second half of the story is sort of like a different type of twist where you realize that the scientist is in cahoots with the military and what they're doing, experimentation and those kinds of things. And you end up with other tragic elements and things like that. So this is Venom. This is again, a precursor to what we're going to get to with Bane. Bane is the villain, the main villain that is integral with the breaking of Batman, the climax of the Knightfall series, which is kind of where we're headed and what I want to get to at some point is to touch on that. So, and if you're not familiar with this, just understand this is this sort of like era where this happens. Death of Superman has happened. Over in Marvel, you have the explosion over there, obviously with X-Men and then the Spider-Man series and those kinds of things. So this is the heyday of why we all talk about this, 90s era of comics and that kind of thing. And this is in large part why. It's just, there's just so much great stuff to sort of like get your head around and enjoy. So okay, so that was the first part, Legends of the Dark Knight. Okay. Okay, the next story is, I believe, also Denny O'Neil, which is funny because the digital version's like backwards. They show the cover at the end. So let me put the cover up first, and then we'll go backwards through some of the stories, so you can kind of like know what the cover looks like. I thought that was weird. The way it's digitally loaded, it's loaded sort of like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird the way they did it. So anyway, this is what it's got like a trifold special edition type cover. All right. So Sword of Azrael. Okay. Very important to understand Azrael in the grand scheme of things. An interesting character for its time. And you can see the different progressions here with him in the middle, and then of course this other figure on the left, and that's what we're going to get to. So, all right, let me stop that real quick. Let me get back to the top, and that's when we get to the story. So, you have to have a little bit of the backstory, I think, to understand some of the progression. So, this is Azrael, and you end up with a sequence of events that's happening here. With him attacking someone, but then getting shot, going out a window, and then ultimately staggering through this Gotham City parade that's being reported on like in real time. There's like blood and chaos in the streets, that kind of thing. And then ultimately this individual dies in the arms of who turns out to be the son. And then of course Batman is piecing together the stories and different things like that. All of this is just beautifully done. It feels almost Elseworlds in some ways. Like there were certain moments where it feels like it doesn't take place in canon, but it does take place in canon. And that's what's interesting about it. Something that's almost like, this easily could have been something like outside the mainstream, but it's not. So what this is this mythological character and this power set and suits and responsibilities and training and things like that. Everything is built around that. And it's come to Batman's door, basically. And this individual goes off to basically figure out about his dad and what he needs to train and what he needs to learn in, and that kind of thing. And that's what this is. And he's basically like the wussy, soft kid who's been pampered. He is completely unaware of his father's responsibility of being this sort of like, I'm going to liken him to sort of like a Knight of the Round Table meets the Punisher. Like it's sort of like something, well, maybe a little bit more supernatural than Punisher, but just something like that. A sword wielding, fantastical character, but he's still human. Here's Batman. Look at the way they do the cape and stuff. This is a 4-part miniseries as well. It's just done very, very well. Very, very interesting. I think you'll really enjoy this little saga. So what transpires here is basically Azrael sort of rising to the challenge of becoming who he's supposed to become. This is Alfred and Bruce going on this hunt. I don't I don't like this as much as I enjoy the Legend story, because I don't feel like there's like a lot of impact here for Batman. This is them integrating this character into Batman's world. Also, I love Joe Quesada's art at times, and there's other times where I don't care for Joe Quesada's art. So, but yeah, it's a 4-part series, and you can see as he starts to actually kind of take the Azrael persona, how kick butt he is, how strong and powerful. But he's also this. He's also brutal, violent, and bloody. And that's what you have to kind of take note of in this prelude or this setup, because he is going to be the new Batman, right? This you have to understand. So if you read the Venom, then you read this, then we're going to get to one more quick little read, which I think you'll enjoy. So no other spoilers, no other details, anything like that. So hopefully you guys will read it, and then we can go from there. So the last one is the most obvious one. It's the obvious setup. I guess this would probably be, I guess if there is one, this would be the most obvious book that you should read. Batman, Vengeance of Bane, Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan. What I think about this one is it's just, I don't think we're ever going to see a Bane done in the right way, because Bane is so patient. He's tragic. So what you get is you basically just get a lot of setup, total origin story from being a child, like living in this place. It's basically like a prison. This is in South America. There's his mom, and he grows up basically under the care of this person. Look over, and he's growing up in this. Just the absolute awful situations. Like you just can't even fathom what it would be like to live in a situation. His mother doesn't get a real birth, and then the military and everything is so corrupt there. They're like, well, we're not in charge of taking care of any kids, so I guess you're just going to live here. And it just sounds insane. And it's like, what would that do to a human? You end up down this rabbit hole of, could this kid survive or not? And what would it be like? And then you end up who he's befriended by, and then kind of how he's raised and how he's kind of brought up into this universe, and becomes this very highly motivated individual to survive. Like, how would he do that? And there's the physical part and the mental part. He'll do anything. Right here, he's killing a rat. Here, he's figuring out how to survive where there's a flooded area. It just kind of keeps sort of transforming. Look at how progressing through the years. There's not a lot there. He says his entire world was the length of 3 short paces. They could not confine his mind. In his mind, he traveled beyond his tomb. So he just fantasizes about different things. He had heard about the Batman, the Gotham City, and the Batman. And that's where he kind of becomes obsessed with, like, how do I become the ruler of the rule? Like, who would be the thing? And then he's training and learning. And then the other part of this is he realizes he's allowed to have books. So the books have brought the world to him. So he learned to read from one of the other people, prisoners, and then he's consuming information. So between the physical and then the mental, he becomes basically almost like an antithesis of Bruce Wayne. If you imagine, what Bruce did to train to become the Batman, imagine sort of the anti-hero version of that, the violent version of that, being Bane. I think that's what you kind of have to understand. Like he grew up in the situation where there is no room for error. He would die. And then as he kind of progresses and he kind of becomes sort of obsessed with this concept of the Batman, right? This imagination, it just fuels his dreams. The creature became his obsession and his purpose. So when the day comes and he has his chance and he's finally out, then they're also they're doing these human experimentations there in this prison. And they ultimately decide, well, he's going to do it. Okay. And in doing so, he actually survives this first phase. And they have implants under the skin. They have this drug that feeds directly into his brain. Other subjects had died long before this, and it's the last step to becoming his perfect self. And then, of course, it progresses where he ends up, how he can escape, get to Gotham, And then you end up with he's going to become face to face. Here he is as Bane, and then how he's going to become face to face with the Batman. Okay. So yeah, this is Bane's origin story, how Bane comes into play, how Bane is using the venom drug that we talked about briefly, and how that will all kind of set up in this thing. And then next time we'll do more of like what is the actual prelude to Knightfall, the issues that lead up to it, and kind of how it sets the table for what Bane's big scheme is and how he's going to rise and figure out a way to actually defeat the Batman and win. So it's just sort of a landmark thing. It's been done in multiple trades. There's multiple versions of all these different things. So if you have any questions, just feel free to hit me up. Let me know I'm looking for this, or how do I find it in trade, or whatever your question is. I'll be more than happy to try to answer for you. And I know this is a very short video for my normal comic talk, but I thought I would just do it this way and then try to focus on maybe getting a few more reviews caught up, because I'm way behind on things that I've been doing and just haven't done reviews. So that's my take on this. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Love the suggestions. Keep them coming. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. I am Pops.